The following is intended for mature audiences only. Discretion is advised.
Pillow fight, pillow fight.
This is so fun.
Pillow fighting.
Why is it so fun?
Pillow fight.
You're listening to Pillow Fight, a comedy and culture podcast hosted by me, Yamini Nambimadom. I've invited a guest or two to come and gossip like we're at a high school slumber party. We'll start off with a little game of Fuck, Marry, Kill, where the choices are buzzworthy moments in pop culture. Then, we'll move into a couple rounds of Would You Rather based on world news. We'll finish the night off with some juicy Truth or Dare. Feel free to grab a friend and play along in this Pillow Fight.
Pillow fight, pillow fight.
Is yours made of goose?
We got feathers flying everywhere.
Mine's made of goose.
Pillow fight, pillow fight.
This is so fun.
Pillow fighting.
Why is it so fun?
Pillow fight.
Today on Pillow Fight, I'm joined by Abby Govindan. Abby's a comedian, writer, and social media personality from Houston, Texas. As an Indian American woman and comedian who's fighting for change and speaking her mind, Abby has been a huge role model of mine, and I am so excited to have her on this episode. You can find her over on Twitter at AbbyGov and on Instagram at AbbyGovindan. On this episode of Pillow Fight, we explore the nuances of lowbrow TV, ponder the minds of our internet haters, and compare our unique approaches to love.
Fuck. Marry. Kill. Fuck, marry, kill.
Okay, so for Fuck, Marry, Kill, the three scenarios are: number one, in an attempt to get out the Gen Z vote, AOC did a live stream where she played the murder mystery game Among Us, and it was watched by over 400,000 people. And we've seen like a lot of, in this election, like Democratic candidates using like gaming and streaming and stuff, but I feel like this was the first one that was actually like well received. And then number two, the Tiger Queen is on Dancing with the Stars right now, and she recently told Pink News that she swings both ways. This is Carole Baskin, by the way. I didn't say her
I
name.
know. She and I are birthday twins.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of knew that she liked pussy already, right?
That's funny.
And then number three, I haven't seen it, but I feel like I have, and I saw that you just watched it on Twitter. But Emily in Paris, I don't have much to say.
My God.
I feel like everyone has a strong opinion on it. So to recap, the three scenarios are: AOC streams Among Us, Carole Baskin is bisexual, and Emily in Paris, period.
Okay, I would kill Emily in Paris, like, without a doubt, and I'll tell you why in a second. I think I would fuck Carole Baskin. Hot take, I don't think she killed her husband. Like, I think that, like, there was so much evidence that she didn't, you know? Like, he used to just, like, take helicopter rides on his own. Specifically, like, his best friend was like, oh, right before he went missing, he told me, like, hey, I'm about to do something crazy, and if I can pull it off, it'll be the best stunt of all. And the fact that people just, like, gloss over that when they're recapping that show, I'm like, yeah, what? Like, that is literally an admission on his part. And I would definitely marry AOC playing Among Us. I think she's so cute. I can go on and on about how much I love AOC, obviously. Okay, Emily in Paris. Let me just say, I finished it yesterday. I am so viscerally angry because Emily in Paris is, like, Emily's just the most basic. Like, she really has nothing going for her. Like, she is the epitome of, like, and you and I are Indian girls, so we definitely know these kinds of white girls. She's the epitome of, like, the white girl who like doesn't really have any defining characteristic traits, but just because she's kind of pretty goes around acting like she's the protagonist of everyone else's stories, except in Emily in Paris, she's actually the protagonist of everyone else's stories, whereas in real life that shit would not fly at all. You know, like, she goes up to all these, like, fashion moguls and she's like, here's what you're doing wrong with your, like, fashion brand, and then they do that whole, like, smiling and shaking their head thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Where they're just like the
it's like, oh, silly girl.
Yeah, and then they're like, wow, like, this 28-year-old really whereas in real life these people would be like, go fuck yourself, like, I don't give a shit what you have to say. There is a love triangle in Emily in Paris where she meets her next door neighbor is like this really hot chef named Gabriel. And then like the next day she meets like this really beautiful, nice, amazing girl named Camille. It's pronounced Camille in French. And she's really close with Camille and she has a crush on Gabriel. And then she finds out that they're dating right after she kisses Gabriel for the first time. And Gabriel is like dating Camille, his girlfriend of like several years, but then he's watching Emily like date other guys and he's so obviously jealous. And that drove me fucking insane because Camille was the best character in the entire show. She was the only good one. Yeah. She was so nice. Like she wasn't the jealous type at all. Like she like unconditionally loved Gabriel. She unconditionally loved Emily. She was just like amazing. And in real life, no one would leave a girl like Camille for a girl like Emily. But in this show, Gabriel like legitimately just he's like pushing and pulling at this like this inner conflict between Emily and Camille. And I'm like, who, like in what, like where is this a difficult scenario for you? And yeah, and like it's just such a bad, like Yamini, like every time you think it can't get any worse, it gets worse. And then of course she has like this best friend who's Chinese. She's like the daughter, she's like the heiress to this like multi-million-dollar fortune in China, but of course she would rather live poor as shit in a Western country than like live like a princess in China, which like not a single person, but like given those scenarios, not a single person would choose Paris, like living in Paris in poverty. And then there was like anti-communist propaganda, which like regardless of your political alignment, like whatever your political belief is, whether you're capitalist, socialist, communist, what have you, anarchist, I think we can all agree that America is absolutely in no position to criticize any other country right now, especially when it comes to like government controlling like censorship and stuff. So that's why that was ridiculous to me. Like Emily in Paris aside, like there's also a lot of like anti-Chinese, anti-Indian, like Russia, like all this anti-communist, anti-socialist propaganda that I think in like 20 years is going to age so poorly. Like, you know how we look at like propaganda from the 40s and 50s, like World War II and World War I propaganda, and we're like, holy shit, that was bad, and like people didn't recognize it. I think that's what my kids are going to say to me about like TV shows in 20 years, you know? Yeah. Anyway.
People were also saying when Emily in Paris came out that it was like the new Sex and the City, the new Gossip Girl, and I feel like it's not messy enough to be as like fun as those shows were, even if they're like not amazing television, you know?
I haven't seen Sex and the City. I watched Gossip Girl right after I moved to New York City for college. And I was like 18. I was so mesmerized by the show. But in retrospect, a lot of those situations were really ridiculous. Like I remember the first time I like laughed out loud in an episode was when Serena told Dan that she cheated on him, even though she didn't. And then Blair was like, why did you do that, Serena? And then she was like, because my real secret is much worse. And then Blair's like, tell me. And then Serena's like, I killed a man. And I was like, holy shit, Serena Vanderwoodson committed murder. And then later you find out she was just partying with some guy and he just took too much cocaine. Like the way she made it sound, she made it sound like she was holding the knife and she like stabbed him, you know? But literally she was just hanging out with this guy. He was like, hey, you want to do another line? And she was like, no, I think I'm good. And then he does like 8 more lines and then he has a heart attack. And she left instead of calling the police, which I get why she feels guilty for that. That is definitely something she should feel guilty for. But I wouldn't go so far as to call, like if that happened to me, I wouldn't be like, I'm a murderer. You know? Like I would definitely try to distance myself from that label as much as possible.
Yeah, Gossip Girl is one of those shows that I watched way before I was ready to watch it. Like it was one of those shows I secretly watched when my parents would definitely not have let me watch it in like late middle school. Probably.
Oh wow.
I think I watched it like I think I caught up and finished it as it was airing, and I just like I thought like Chuck and Blair were like the epitome of romance. Like I told my 7th grade boyfriend like I want us to be the brown Chuck and Blair. I just love that show so much, and I recently rewatched the first season like in college. Just laughed. Everything, it's like the most terrible acting, like everything about it is so absurd. Like we're shipping Serena and her basically stepbrother. Like,
yes. Oh my God. Yeah. And Pretty Little Liars is another one of those shows. I ate that shit up when I was 14. You know, but like recently I like went back and watched a recap, and it was like I don't even remember their names. Like Arya's boyfriend is A, and then like Spencer's boyfriend is uber A, and then like Emily's girlfriend is like triple A, and then like all these like fucking, and I'm like, ooh, like what possessed me to find this shit entertaining?
Also,
like when I was
they
in high school.
made us like really root for, I guess, extremely pedophilic relationship.
Yeah, like Arya and Ezra.
Yeah, like he was a high school teacher and she was what, like 16?
15.
Yeah, like
well, I think the reason that well, yeah, I mean, I was a horny little Tumblr 14, 15-year-old who definitely would have like fantasized about hooking up with a young, hot, like 23-year-old English teacher. But I think the reason that like it didn't really raise any red flags back then, even amongst like adults, like I know so many adults who watched it, is because in real life, the girl who plays Arya and the guy who plays Ezra are like 2 years age difference. You know, so like in the show, they just looked like a couple. Like they didn't look like a high school student and English teacher. Whereas like if in real life, if like a like 25-year-old, I want to say he was like 26 or 27, right? Because he was like freshly graduated from grad school when he started teaching. Whereas like in real life, if we saw one of those relationships, like you would be able to tell it was an adult and a child.
In fact, like I think the actor who played Ezra looked younger than a lot of the other boyfriends.
Yeah,
right?
That's so true.
Like Caleb,
so right.
Caleb could have been a father with children, like, you know, working a 9 to 5.
Yeah. Oh man. Like, here's what I'm learning about these shows. And this is what I told my manager too, is I was like, I'm too focused on selling a good TV show when I should just be trying to sell a bad TV show that's so addictive that people watch it just to shit on it, because the check cash is the same no matter what the Rotten Tomatoes score is, you know, like Lily Collins and what's his name? Like, I think his name is like Dan Harper or something, the guy who produced Emily in Paris. They're laughing at us. They wrote a story where they like wrote in like workplace sexual harassment and pedophilia as quirky plot points, and then they cashed the $1 million Netflix check and they went home to their 4-story mansions. And here I am ranting angrily about it on a podcast. Like, so who's the winner here? Them, obviously. Like, you know. And spoiler alert for Emily in Paris, but like workplace sexual harassment is like a very quirky like storyline that they just add in there, that her boss like wants to sleep with her, and the way that he interacts with her, like if it were you or I, it would be very uncomfortable, you know, like if my boss was like really hot, the way he interacted with her was just really uncomfortable. And they tried to like push it as like romantic and cute, and it really didn't work. And then Emily like sleeps with this really hot guy, and she finds out that the following morning that he's 17. And that was like a whole, like, they just laughed past it. They were like, France, Paris, like whatever. And then one thing that really annoyed me is I've been to Paris and I've been on Tinder in Paris, and the men there, I shouldn't say boys, the men there are exquisite. Like literally, they're all so attractive. And the reason they're all so attractive is because Paris isn't the most diverse city, but it is a very diverse city. Like there are so many people, like, of course, because there's like a Haitian French connection. There's so many people who come from Haiti to like study there for college or like look for work. And then there's so many like Asian international people who like finish their studies in like China or Japan or India and then move over. And it's like I said, Paris isn't the most diverse city, but it is like it is for sure a melting pot. And that's what I loved about it, is that like all the guys were hot. But in Emily in Paris, they find the most basic white guys, like they don't even have a jawline, like they don't have any facial structure, and they try to like uphold them as like these French heartthrobs. And it was just so annoying because she lives in Paris, but somehow she like the only person of color she meets is like her one coworker and then her best friend Mindy, right? And none of the guys that she hooks up with, and she hooks up with like 15, are people of color. And I was like, you really have to go out of your way to not meet any men of color in Paris. And if they had just like replaced a couple of those like basic white boys with like attractive like Chinese men or black men or Indian men, which there are a lot of in Paris, I can like confirm, I would have believed it. Like it would have been totally believable. But she was like fawning over these like 35-year-old men. It was a little like, what am I trying to say? Tropey. It was really predictable. Like I found myself saying a lot of the punchlines in my head, like 20 seconds before they were spoken on screen.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it was very predictable.
When those things happen in shows, though, where you can predict the punchline or what's about to happen before they happen, I know it's because the show's writing is bad, but I feel so smart. Like, I feel like I'm the most smart watcher ever. And that's like kind of why you love it. It just makes you feel like so good, like good about yourself.
Yeah. And here's the thing is, if you look at, I like famously say that there's no such thing as bad TV or film. There's only good TV or film. And then there's satire, which is a joke, obviously. Like there's definitely such thing as bad TV and film. But if you look at some of these bad TV shows and flip them on their head and say like, oh, this is actually satire of TV, then it becomes genius. And that's literally Emily in Paris. Like, I know they weren't writing it with satirical, like objective in mind, but if you watch it as satire of like, this genre of like young quirky girl trying to make it in the big city, it's fucking genius. But it's like that wasn't its intention.
Have you ever seen? It's another Lucy Hale. It's a Lucy Hale movie. It's called Dude. Awkwafina's in it too, and Austin Butler's in it. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's on Netflix, and it is another one of those things where it's like objectively so terrible, but like every time I've watched it multiple times because I just now I'm viewing it as like this terrible, like wonderful, terrible movie. Because so the premise is like they're all like these. Okay, first of all, they're all like 30-year-old models, and they're in high school, their senior year, and they're like uncool at their high school, but they're all like stoners, and this like
wait, so Awkwafina is in high school?
Yes.
No, it's Lucy Hale.
It's Awkwafina.
Lucy Hale is in her 30s and she's still playing high schoolers a whole 15 years later. Oh and my God.
That girl from Skins who played a twin. Remember the twins in Skins?
Skins UK?
Yeah. It was the second generation, I think. But
oh, okay. I didn't watch second gen.
Okay. Well, the twin from Skins, that's like, they were in high school then. And now she's still in high school. And then this other actress, I'm forgetting her name, but she had like a shaved head and tattoos. Like they were all models. Like it was like, that was a friend group. And they were stoners. And like every single bad thing that could ever happen to someone happens in that movie. Yeah. Also, there's like there's a sex scene where Lucy Hale, like, she like takes off all her undergarments, she places them on the floor, and then it's just like, so it's just, I think they just really missed what being a teenager is like. And also it was when it was released, I think it was like maybe 2018, 2019, it was set in the present day, but everything was like just a little bit behind because it was obviously filmed a few months ago. So their like capturing of the present was like just a little bit off. It was like too dated in a weird time that was like not.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, this is a case for hiring young people in Hollywood, if I've ever seen one, is like, if you hire 20 people in their 20s, like, yeah, it's been a while since they were in high school, but like it's like high school is still pretty fresh on my mind. Like if someone asked me to write like a high school coming of age story, I think I'd be able to write a pretty good one, as opposed to like, and that's the thing with Emily in Paris, the way that she like captioned her Instagram photos is the way that my 55-year-old Indian mother captions Instagram photos.
I think that I would do the same three things as you, probably for different reasons. In this Fuck, Marry, Kill, I would kill Emily in Paris just so I never have to hear about it again. I considered muting it on Twitter, but I like some of the discourse. But all my friends have seen it, and they bully me that I haven't. They're like, you think you're above it, and I don't. I just like don't care to spend time watching it, you know. I just don't want to, and I don't care about it.
Good call.
And I would marry AOC streaming Among Us because I just think like that's fun and cute and there's nothing wrong with it. And I also think the reason that like people liked AOC doing it was because like she it's not like she's pandering. Like she's always done these like live streams and she like cooks on her Instagram live and she just like is online. And I think people like that about her. So it's good.
Well, also, I think it's worth noting that people are only annoyed by pandering if your policy doesn't match like what is best for everyone. Like I think a good example is if Nancy Pelosi tried to play Among Us, we'd be like, sign the Green New Deal first, you know, like, what do you, and because AOC and Ilhan Omar are very progressive, everyone's like, okay, you're doing everything you can, like, you deserve to have a little bit of fun, you know?
Yeah. So I would marry that, and then I would fuck Carol Baskin as a bisexual, because technically her coming out as bisexual means that she would fuck me, so it's, like, very viable.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, I mean, I also think, I agree with you, I don't think she killed her husband, and I also think, okay, we're always like, kill all men, kill all men, kill all men. If Carol Baskin killed her, we should support her. I think that we're
also we always say eat the rich, right? And he was rich, and we didn't eat him, but the tigers did, supposedly. I think, like I said, also, I don't believe she did it, but
I don't think she killed him, but if she killed him the way that they said she did, where she, like, put the whatever, the oil on him and, like, fed him to the tigers, that's pretty baller, and I have to respect that. So that's my take on that situation. But.
Yeah, like, here's the thing, either she didn't kill her husband or she killed her husband and did it, like, really, really well.
Yeah.
And this was a husband who, what did they say? Like, this was a husband who she met when she was, like, 14, I think, and he was still married to his wife.
Definitely
and, like,
a creep.
Yeah, and then he, like, handed her a shotgun or something, like, when he, anyway, I firmly do not believe that she killed her husband, but if she did, then, like, whatever.
Something I have, like, a very gross voyeuristic desire to know more about is her sex life with her current husband, because do you remember those, like, wedding pictures that were making? They were definitely, like, very, like, fetishy. Well, I just am very curious about their dynamic.
Yeah, her current husband is so cute too.
Yeah, he's sweet.
He's so happy together. Yeah. I hope for his sake that she didn't kill her husband. You know, if for absolutely no one else, for his sake, because he deserves to be happy.
Yeah.
Would you rather, would you rather, would you rather? Let's play a game of Would You Rather.
So to me personally, in this election cycle, there have been two really awful fan bases to interact with right now, which are Harry Potter fans and West Wing fans. So, you know, there's, like, analogies to everything from those shows, like Trump is Voldemort type of stuff. You know, Nancy Pelosi is McGonagall. All that nonsense. Yeah. Okay, if you were trapped in, like, only being able to be on Twitter and seeing, and, like, all you could see was one of those, like, you were just stuck on Harry Potter political stand Twitter or West Wing political stand Twitter, which would you choose?
Okay, I haven't seen West Wing, so this is a difficult question, because if I were on Harry Potter political stand Twitter, I would understand what was going on, and I don't necessarily know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Does that make sense? Like, at least if it was West Wing, then, like, I could be like, I don't know what the fuck these people are talking about. These, like, but I do like to participate in discourse, but I hate Harry Potter stands, and I feel like I can say that because I used to be one. Like, it was my entire personality. Here's the thing with Harry Potter is I feel like everyone was a Harry Potter fan, but for whatever reason, we all thought we were the only Harry Potter fan. You know, like, my memory. Yeah, my memory of being a Harry Potter fan was, like, I relate to Harry Potter because, like, I don't really fit in, and, like, none of my friends really read Harry Potter. But everyone liked it. We just all thought we were special for liking it, you know? And I saw a lot of myself in Harry Potter in that, like, he just, like, didn't fit in his like, old life, you know, and it turns out the reason he didn't fit in is because he was special. And so in that sense, I think Harry Potter spoke to a lot of us. But fuck J.K. Rowling, man. Like, why did she have to come out? All she had to do was, like, close the door, like, cash her final check, close the doors to her resplendent mansion, like, shut the fuck up forever. But instead she ruined her, like, 20-year legacy with, like, 5 tweets in the span of, like, a couple
I also
of weeks.
think, like, I think Harry Potter kind of established this, like, moral sense of, like, politics in a lot of our generation, where, like, you know, kind of standing up for good and, like, you know, denouncing evil and, like, being able to call out, like, toxic people and things like that. And I think that's, like, we got a lot of our values from that, and that's kind of, like, how we knew, like, not how we knew to hate her, but, like, she kind of raised this generation that now despises her.
Yeah, that like speaks truth to power. And and then the fact apparently that Daniel Radcliffe was like, oh, I like, apparently there was a Harry Potter sequel in the talk they were like in the talks, whatever, however you say that. And now he's like, I'll only work on it if she's not involved, which is fucking hilarious. Like how every star from that movie came forward and was like, she's full of shit. Okay, to answer your question, I think that I would choose Harry Potter Twitter only because since I understand them, I can make fun of them.
Yeah. I would choose Harry Potter Twitter too because I think like it's a little bit more absurd in a way that is less irritating to me. Like when I see it, I can laugh at it. The West Wing stan Twitter applied to politics. It like feels like they're literally applying, like using the West Wing as like their political compass, applying it directly because it maps directly onto like American politics. Whereas like Harry Potter, it's like ideas and concepts. So it's not, it feels less like actually real. And the West Wing people, I really feel like they watch that show and they're like, this is how I'm going to define my politics for the rest of time.
Yeah. So Harry Potter. I guess Harry Potter is both of our answers then.
Yeah. Okay, we can do number 2. The Bachelorette is back. I don't know if you watch it or watch any of the Bachelor shows. Okay, well, I personally am like obsessed with it. I watched like every single season of it since like 2012 because I just love white people drama. I think it makes life just so much more digestible. I like love watching their problems. Even if it's like
because they don't really have any. Like, imagine your only problem in life being that like you don't have a partner, so you just like sign up for a show where like 20 people fight to be your partner. Like, what a quaint life that must be. You know,
I love it. I think it's one of the most well-produced shows on television. I went through a period of time where like that was kind of like producing that show is like one of my dream jobs. I just think like the stories are so like they're so well crafted. The characters, they're so well crafted. I just think it's so good. But I want to know, if you went on a show like that, would you rather leave with love or be like kind of a villain but like end up hugely successful as like an influencer that sells sugar bear hair? And
so you're asking if I would rather be
like win the show, be in love.
Or be like Corinne.
Yeah, Corinne or Demi.
Or Aparna from Indian Matchmaking.
Yes.
I would definitely rather leave with love. But I know that one of the caveats of that show is that like I don't think you have to, but I think like it's expected that you get engaged to like the person that like wins. And I feel like that's a lot of pressure. I would much rather leave with love though. I always say that they should cast me as the Bachelorette and like do an all South Asian season because I am very dedicated to wanting to marry a South Asian man. And I think an all South Asian season would just be so like wonderfully chaotic.
It would be really fun to watch.
Yeah. I think I would rather leave with love. I am very big on like wanting to leave a positive legacy. Like I want people to be able to look at what I've like contributed to this world in 20 or 30 years and say that like she helped move as a community, like move South Asian people forward as opposed to backward. So I think for that reason alone, I would definitely want to leave with love. But if I don't know if that'd be my answer if I were like white, you know, if I didn't have like any pressure to like represent any community.
Yeah.
You know?
See,
I do love being chaotic. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think I though would rather be like a semi-villain, not like an evil villain, just like someone who stirs the pot and people might not like them, but like eventually they come around after the show type of thing. I think I would rather do that. Like Demi was on Colton's season was like that kind of character, and they're always my favorite. Like I just get bored by the people who win. They're always like my least favorite people. I think also like if you win, you're attached to the person that you end up with type of thing forever. And if you like break up, you're like kind of irrelevant. So it's like your identity becomes meshed to that person and not just like about you. And I don't.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, I didn't know what you meant by villain. Have you seen Indian Matchmaking?
Yes.
So I wouldn't say Nadia is a villain. Like she's definitely not a villain by any means, but she was like not afraid to speak her mind. And like, that's what I would do if I were on a dating show. Like I would not settle. I'd be relentless. And like, of course that would alienate some people. So, no, Aparna, first of all, she lives like 2 streets away from me.
Really?
Second of all, Aparna, I just like didn't And like, I really don't want to say that I don't like her, because she does get a lot of hate. And most of it is warranted, but a lot of it also is unwarranted. And I don't want to like join the pylon, but like, to me, she just like didn't have enough going for her to be that mean to guys who are trying to be nice to her, you know, like the guy, Srini, the one who like
Srini
had his own podcast. Yeah. Srini the loser. He was so sweet. And like, even if she didn't like him, she could have been so much nicer about it, you know. Like when I don't vibe with someone, I'm like, oh, he's such a great guy, he was so nice, like I just don't think our paths in life are like, you know, aligned. But she was just straight up so mean. And like I said, like I don't like, she does not have enough going for her to be that mean. And that's what like really, really annoyed me. Like if she was like senior VP of a company, or if she was like drop dead, like 15 out of 10 gorgeous, I'd still be annoyed, but I'd be like, okay, like I get why you're so full of yourself. But like, she's just a lawyer from Bel Air. Like there's like inherently, she really has no reason to be that mean to people who are trying to date her.
I really didn't like her for like the first half of the show. And then towards the end, I don't know what it was, but there was a point where like I just was won over by her. And I was watching with my friend Rami, and we became obsessed with her at a certain point, to the point where I got him a cameo from her for his birthday. And it was like just the cutest thing I've ever seen. Like I think there's definitely some sort of like editing involved to like, I think she was like overly picky and kind of mean for sure. I think they also like latched onto it in a way that was like trying to paint her as this like woman who, you know, doesn't think anyone's worthy.
No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, like they like dating show producers definitely do use editing to like make people look more demonic than they are. For sure, I'm sure that contributed to it. But just like a lot of the stuff she said was mean. Her mom called him. Her mom was the worst. Her
mom was like the worst. Do you watch any other like dating reality shows like that?
No, I don't watch dating reality shows. I like really can't stand them. Yeah. Well, because I had a tweet that went viral back in February, and I stand by it. And I said, like, I don't watch these shows because if I wanted to watch 12 beautiful women like pine over one average looking white dude, I would just text my friends and ask them how life is going. And that's like still very true, you know? Like if I were on The Bachelor, I would convince everyone to unionize. I'd be like, they need us to like create drama, and we should not give them drama. Like we should just be really nice to each other and wish the best for each other, and like whoever connects with him the most, like we're just all like, okay, sounds good, like I'm happy for you, you know.
You're the union leader of the Bachelor girls.
Yeah, exactly. Bachelor producers, if you're listening to this. Do you watch Nathan For You?
I've watched episodes of it.
Okay, he has one called Haunted House / The Hunk. And in it, like the premise of the second half of the episode is that women make him nervous. So in order to come over his nervousness for women, he creates a fake dating show where he's the hunk that they all fight over. So he like rents a mansion and he like brings in 12 women, and like none of them know the show is fake. And it's very telling. Like, I mean, like nothing happens on the hunk that like you don't already see on the Bachelorette or Bachelor, and like, you know what's going on. But in the sense that like he could only get women to be interested in him when they knew that they had a chance to be on camera, you know, like he his whole thing is like, oh, I have difficulty like getting women. But then all these women flocked to him when they knew that they had a chance to be on TV just by being associated with him. So in that sense, I guess like that can be applied kind of to The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. Like I'm sure the producers don't like outwardly say like be bitches to each other, but I'm sure there is some understanding that like the more drama you create, the better for the show, and also the better for your brand. Yeah. Because like the more drama, the more screen time, essentially. And I mean, like I feel like, well, the hunk episode was funny. It was really, really funny, but like there is something in my heart that feels wrong about like making fun of women for wanting to be on TV, you know? But it is like, to an extent, it is kind of hilarious that they're willing to do like anything to be on TV. And I feel like I said, that could be applied to The Bachelor.
I mean, like I think men are the same way, and I think we make fun of women for it more, but I think like in our culture now, like everybody wants attention.
Screen time.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite Nathan For You episode. So if you have Hulu, you should definitely
I'll
I think it's
watch it.
season 2 or season 1 or season 2. It's called Haunted House / The Hulk. I've watched it like 100 billion times. I can quote it word for word.
You have like such a affinity for Nathan Fielder.
Yeah, well, if I may, so like before I saw Nathan For You and the Eric Andre show and Borat and Who Is America, I was just a stand-up comedian. And then I watched all of these in like this intersection of comedy and reality and satire and like making commentary about like modern day like pop culture and imperialism and late stage capitalism. Like it intrigued me so much, and to me like these men are geniuses, like Nathan Fielder, Eric Andre, Sacha Baron Cohen, and also like Tim Heidecker does a lot of like reality comedy stuff, and it really changed my life. And it changed my career trajectory. Like that's when I realized that I wanted to be so much more than just a stand-up comedian. So that's why I have such an affinity for like Nathan Fielder, Eric Andre, Sacha Baron Cohen. Like I talk about them so much because they just influence like who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And that's the hunk episode is the one I always bring up whenever people tell me to watch The Bachelor / The Bachelorette, because I think it perfectly encapsulates like why I don't watch those shows.
Yeah.
You know?
Have you heard of / watched Unreal?
Yeah, my friend recommended it to me. It's a TV show. It's a scripted TV show about an unscripted TV show, right?
Yeah, it's a scripted TV show about the making of a show. Like basically, that's just The Bachelor. It was.
I think it's made by some producers who left The Bachelor.
Who left The Bachelor? Yep. It's really good. I really loved it. It's not a comedy. It's a drama, but it is like a satire of that show, and thought it was like so good. And it is like, I think it's definitely exaggerated for effect, but it was like I think like that what you were explaining the Nathan Fielder, the episode of Nathan For You to be, I feel is like the dramatic counterpart of that.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
Truth or dare?
Truth.
What's the worst thing you've ever done to get revenge on someone? Or like to feel like at peace with?
I'm not a petty person, actually.
That's good. That's good for you.
Yeah, I'm not really a petty or jealous person. This has been a point of contention in my past relationships. Like my last 2 boyfriends, I told them I don't get jealous, and they were like, does that mean you don't love me enough? And I was like, no, like I feel like that's a good thing, right? Like they were just annoyed that I didn't get jealous. Okay. I guess it's not really like messed up, but it did like give me a feeling of, so recently I have been like really outspoken about Hindu nationalism. Like I think as a like upper caste, like Indian person with a platform, I have a duty to kind of tell people that, you know, casteism and Hindu nationalism are bad and they have no place in our society. And so recently, like a bunch of like high schoolers, like a bunch of children found that post, and they just like commented the most vile shit. Like the disagreeing is fine is one thing, but they were commenting like Islamophobic things. They were calling my gay friend slurs. They called me the N-word. Right. And then, and like, I just like didn't really interact other than like politely responding to a few people. But then one of their moms contacted my mom and was like, hope you managed to teach your daughter basic decency. She's doxing children. So I sent her a very long email where I was like, you keep my mom's name like out of your fucking mouth. Like I didn't use any curse words, but essentially that's what I said.
Like a biting email.
And and I was like, I am an adult. I had my email in my Instagram bio. I have my email on my website, but like obviously you're trying to intimidate me and it's like not working. And then she emailed me back and she was like, cyberbullying is against the law, like blah, blah, blah. And I responded and I was like, I would be so happy to take this to court. Like I have a lawyer on retainer. Like I guarantee you that if we were to take this to court, the worst I would get is reprimanded, but your kids, what they said qualifies as hate speech under the law. And at worst they face potential jail time. And at best they face community service and a permanent mark on their criminal record. And that's the best case scenario. So essentially in this email, I said, I chose not to go to law enforcement. Also, like I told I have a couple of freelance clients, and I emailed them and I was like, hey, here's everything that's happening. Here's the harassment I'm facing. And my clients responded and they were like, we're really supportive of you, like using your platform and speaking out. Like, this isn't an issue, right? So I told her, this mother, I was like, both my places of work know that this is happening. They're extremely supportive. Like, they really like them speaking truth to power and like advocating against genocide. I can't say that your kids' high schools and future colleges will feel the same about them using like LGBTQ slurs, like racial slurs, like threatening violence, so much Islamophobia, like so much like I'm gonna come and like set fire to your house, like 16-year-olds, right? So that's what in my email to her, I was like, we could take this to court, or I could contact your kids' schools and colleges. Either way, like I'll end up fine. Your kids won't. So I ended the email with, please, like, not please. I would advise you and your kids to not make me regret my decision to not contact law enforcement and or their schools. That was a week ago and she hasn't responded. Like, she was like rapid fire responding to all my previous emails. Like, she was like, you're in the wrong, like my kids, I'm protecting them. And so that felt really nice because like it was so obviously an intimidation tactic. So I just like turned it around on her, you know, like I really did decide not to contact these kids' schools because I was like, okay, like this is like, you know, they have terrible outlook now, but they're 16, 17. They're being fed so much propaganda by their parents. Like, I'm going to give them time to grow and evolve. And so the fact that like one of their moms came out of nowhere and was like, you're like, she emailed my mom. She's like, you're so bad at parenting. And I was like, your kids are using like slurs and threatening violence. So that felt really nice. Like, I sent that email and she didn't respond at all. And I was like, fuck you. Like, like, exactly.
That feels like good though. That was a positive thing, I think, not.
Yeah.
I think when this is happening to you, I think that like you and I had interacted on Twitter to some extent where we were like making fun of Hindu Indians. Like some of these people found this and then like I would say it's like at max like 10, 15 people. Like we're like going through my Twitter too and like just saying like it was not scary at all. It was just like funny. I was like, they clearly like went through all of your tweets, found something that I said. Like they're like clearly like finding everyone you interacted with, like checking all of their beliefs. No. I was like, no, literally. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So this like prominent, like she's actually well-known, like spiritual Hindu healer or whatever in Los Angeles quote tweeted one of my tweets. And she was like I was saying something like Hindu nationalism is terrible. And she quote tweeted, she's like, what's terrible is you are Hindu phobic, you're self-hating, you're a pick-me, like blah, blah, blah. And then like hundreds of people responded, like egging her on. And I was like, drag me clean, like go off. And one of them, I don't know if you've watched my stand-up sets. I have one stand-up set explaining the origins of my name. My full name is Abhinaya Govindan, and like Govindan of course means like is another word for Krishna, which is a Hindu god, and Abhinaya means like theatrical, but of course for the sake of comedy I say like Abhinaya means over dramatic, which actually in some translations that's what it means. And Govindan is like a word for Krishna who is a shepherd, so I use the transitive property. I'm like Govindan means shepherd, Abhinaya means over dramatic. Like my name means over dramatic shepherd, so essentially I'm Jesus, right? Like that's the punchline. And this lady was like, even in her stand-up sets, she says that Abhinaya means overdramatic and Govindan means shepherd. She doesn't say Govindan means Krishna. She's ashamed, like she's a pick-me. Like, and I was like, lady, it's a stand-up set. It's so not that deep. Also, thank you for the YouTube view. You know, like I know you had to watch like 10 of my stand-up sets to come up with that one comeback. Oh my God, they're insane. They're defending nationalism. Like some of these kids have like ACAB, Free Palestine, like the rainbow flag in their bio, and then they're commenting shit like, yeah, India should continue like violent military occupation. I think there's just so much like picking and choosing of like, I agree with this in the US, but not somewhere else, and like I think...
No, I always say that that's proof that Indian people don't play politics based on ethics. They play politics based on how it personally benefits them, because there is no overlap between American liberalism and Indian conservatism. Like absolutely fucking none. And but so many Indian people are American liberal and Indian conservative.
Yeah. Sorry, I've met a lot of people in the US who are like, we're pro-Bernie, like almost like leftist Americans, and are like pro the BJP, which is like couldn't be further apart, you know?
Yeah, it's insane to see kind of the hypocrisy. Oh yeah. So what I was saying is like a lot of kids responded and they were like, Hindu nationalism is a good thing. Like, I'm proud to be Hindu. Like, and I was like, why are you defending nationalism? Like, at what point in history has nationalism ever been the right side to be on? Like, when has it ever aged well, you know?
Yeah.
And again, these are like self-proclaimed progressives. Anyway, they're going to listen to this and you're going to get some stats, but we're going to be harassed for a
they're going to listen to it and that'll just like crank the listen number up and it'll be fine. Like you said, like the Emily in Paris thing, if they have time to bother me, like I don't have time to bother random people. Like, so.
Yeah. And I watched a Lily Singh video yesterday where it was a Q&A where someone was like, people have been really cruel to you about your late night show. Like, how do you act about that? And she said, you know, like I've met my idols, I have mentors, and like not a single one of them goes out of their way to criticize people on YouTube, online. They don't go out of their way to comment something mean. Like if they have a legitimate criticism, they will talk to their colleague, like person to person. And she was like, that's when I realized I shouldn't take any of these people seriously. Like if your way of criticism is going online and saying mean things as opposed to like trying to be constructive about it, then you're not someone I ever wanted criticism from in the first place. So I think that's a really good way to look at things. Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, your turn. Truth or dare?
I'll do truth.
Okay. What is the most embarrassing thing you've done in the name of like love or romance?
I think I know one. It's an old school one. This is from high school. But okay. There were two boys at my high school with the same name, same first name. And I was really into one. And another one was my good friend. And the one I was really into asked out my friend in front of me.
Oh,
and it hurt me. And so I went to go text my friend of the same name that he did that, but I accidentally texted the one I liked.
No.
And I realized it after, because like I didn't have last names on my phone at that time. Oh, it was so bad. And then on Monday, it was on Friday, and then on Monday in class, he like came up to me and apologized to me, and it was like the most awkward thing in the whole world.
At least he apologized. That's a pretty mature thing for a high schooler to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of why I liked him. I'm trying to think of anything more recently that I've done. I think I'm like scared of being vulnerable or like open about my feelings to the point where I convince people that I don't like them. And then that like ruins everything, you know?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
I used to be put myself out there. Like when I was younger, I would just do all this shit. I would like tell boys, I was like, I have a crush on you. And now I'm like, no. I still
actually do that. So so 3 out of 4 of my boyfriends, I was the one who was like, I was like, I want to date you.
Yeah.
Like, let's date. So I've always been that way. My first boyfriend was my high school boyfriend. His name is Tim. He and I are still very close, actually. We used to FaceTime every day to do homework. And I remember one day I was just like, hey, Tim, I have feelings for you. And he was like, I have feelings for you too. And it just felt so nice. Like I remember it was really straight out of like a coming of age story.
Yeah.
And I kind of decided at that point, like I was never going to hold back, because I used to be an ugly kid. And like whenever people found out I had a crush on them in like middle school, they used to like pretend to throw up or whatever. And so I was like really afraid of rejection in that sense. But then like when I was 16 or 17, I was like, I am a bombshell, and like anyone would be lucky if I had a crush on them, and I'm just going to start acting like that. So
Truth or dare?
Let's do dare.
Okay. Do you have like a reply guide that you are familiar with who isn't weird?
A couple, yeah.
Could you DM one of them like a random emoji and then not?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let's do the one that reply, like our shared reply.
Yeah, okay.
I like.
You can even put us in a group chat if you want.
Yeah, let's do that.
It would make his day.
What's the emoji? Choose the emoji.
Let's see. Let's look through emojis. I think you should do the ball of yarn.
Okay, sent. We'll see how this one goes.
Okay, that was a simple dare.
Okay, what about you? Truth or dare?
I'll do a dare now too.
DM Seth Rogen a random emoji.
Okay. What do you tell me after this? What emoji? You pick the emoji.
Let's do ball of yarn. we got a trend, a theme going on here.
Okay.
Okay. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Yes.
Seth Rogen, I'm so sorry.
Have you DM'd him yet?
No, that was my first DM. I was like, I need to, but I don't know. I like have to say something perfect, but now I guess it's yarn. I feel like that's kind of special though, you know?
That is, yeah.
Truth or dare? Let's do one more round and then we can end.
Truth.
What's the weirdest rumor that's ever like circled the internet or like friend groups or school or whatever about you?
Oh, I love this question. That I'm a BJP sleeper agent. I saw there was a rumor that this girl posted that, backstory. So Modi came and did Howdy Modi in Houston last year, just happens to be the city that I'm from. Yeah. And his team reached out to me and asked if I would be the digital face of it. And I was considering it for a hot second. I mean, I'm not proud to admit that, but for the sake of honesty, I was considering it purely because I was like, this is an opportunity to represent my country. Like this would be cool to like literally work with the government of India. But the more thought that I gave it, the more I was like, I cannot divorce what Modi has done. Yeah. No matter how you slice it. Like this is in any way enabling fascism. So I tweeted, I didn't take the job. And then a whole bunch of like Indian people, both in America and in India, like started this rumor that I had accepted it and that I was working with the government. BJP sleeper agent is my favorite because it implies that I was planted here like 23 years ago. And then like, they planned for me to pursue comedy. It's hilarious because the progressive Indian people were like, Abhi Govindan is working for BJP. And then the conservative Indian people were like, Abhi Govindan is working for Hassan Minaj. Like those were the two like circulating rumors. And I was like, these can't both be true. Like choose one lie.
You're like a Benedict Arnold.
Rumor about me. I mean, it sucked at the time, obviously, because people were accusing me of enabling fascism, obviously. And like that was not a fun accusation to be on the receiving end of. But in retrospect, it's just like so funny to me that like people were like, oh, she like works for BJP. She's like tight with Modi. And I include the context to say I do understand where it came from. Like I was very much offered this position and they offered me so much money that I really would not have had to worry about finding a job for like 6 months. But in the end, I was like, no, you guys can go fuck yourself and move back in with my parents. I feel like at any point, I'm like one statement or one tweet away from like getting banned from entering the country of India ever again. Yeah, but that's a long answer, but it's my favorite. That's my favorite question because I'm like, this is my life now. Like in every sense of the word, I am a normal person with a platform. Like I'm not used to being perceived by so many people. Yeah. So whenever these rumors circulate about me, I'm like, damn, like, people know I exist, and not only do they know I exist, they like make assumptions that aren't true. Yeah,
because people feel like they're entitled to your life and like everything about it when you put yourself on the internet.
So my friend Ellie left Barstool, and
Ellie Schnitt.
Yeah. And I went on the subreddit for Barstool and all these people were like spouting conspiracy theories. Like my favorite conspiracy theory was like Michaela Oakland pressured Ellie to like leave. And I was like, that is so wild because I know them as like real people, like I've interacted with them. I've met them in person. Yeah. But to these people on these like subreddits, they're characters. Like they're literally playing around with these people like they're characters in a TV show. And then that's when I kind of became self-aware of like how I perceived celebrities my whole life. Like I always thought of them kind of as characters that I could just like play around with in my head. But I think like being on the receiving end of it and also watching my friends more so be on the receiving end of it just made me realize that more than anything that like at the end of the day, people with platforms and people with influence are still people like you and I, Yeah. Okay. Truth or dare?
I'll do truth.
Okay. What's the most unpleasant interaction you've had with a celebrity?
With a celebrity? I'm trying to think. Oh, I know what it is. This is actually funny because I can say this and I don't feel bad. It was with Shane Dawson. I was in high school and I saw him at Disneyland. I like went to like take a picture with him kind of thing, and he was just like uncomfortable. I think every other celebrity I've had an encounter with has been pleasant. Haven't encountered that many, but I met Diane Guerrero from The Orange Is the New Black and Jane.
Oh, she's so beautiful.
Yeah, and I saw her at the Grove in LA, and I talked to her for like 2 minutes. She was very sweet.
I mean, you're definitely you're becoming more and more popular on Twitter and also on TikTok. As you grow your platform, you will definitely have unpleasant encounters with celebrities that you formerly looked up to. So I tweeted John Mulaney is the only funny white man, and Crystalia quote tweeted it. And
you've told me this. Yeah.
Yeah. And Crystalia quote tweeted it, and he was like, yeah, fuck white guy. He was so obviously mad. And I was like, that's so weird that he would quote tweet that, because John Mulaney is very much the sweetheart of stand-up comedy. Yeah. Why would you openly throw shade not only at me but also at him by quote tweeting that? And then a whole bunch of white men, prominent white stand-up comedians came for my fucking throat. Oh man, what a life I've lived.
Yeah,
what a life
I just think white men who get mad at people getting mad at white men are the problem.
I mean, I am nonchalant about it now, but at the time, as someone who had only been doing stand-up for a little bit over a year, it was very terrifying, and I was very much oh my God, my career's over. But now I see that that's not the case anymore. No. Especially as more and more of these men.
Abby 1, Crystalia 0.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Especially as more of these men are being exposed as terrible people, because men in comedy tend to be terrible people. But yeah.
Thanks so much for joining me. This was so fun.
Thanks for having me. This is such a fun podcast. I can't wait to see.
Pillow Fight is a production by me, Yamini Nambimadom, with music by Greer Baxter. Thanks for listening.